Hello and welcome to MetalVice in 666. I'm one of your hosts, Brian, joined by my other host.
Karen.
And today we're going to talk about, there's been a few articles that came out in the last couple of months about venues taking merch revenue from bands and the amount of revenue some venues are taking from these bands and their merch sales. So let's go ahead and start the timer and just sort of dive into it. Okay, so the first article, both of the articles we're going to talk about are from The Pit, which is they pulled from other articles. I think Metal Hammer is one of them. They pulled from as well.
Okay.
But the first one is the Architects call for bands to take strike against venues for taking money. Basically, like bands saying we're not going to play at these venues. And that, I mean that's just sort of the gist of the article of just the drummer coming out and tweeting like, hey bands, when are we going to go on strike? Because these venues are taking our merch cuts, or maybe we kind of split the merch and the beer sales and kind of go that route. Let's try to get this resolved ASAP type thing.
Well, I guess before we go into it too much is bands make a lot of, well, not a lot, but like their profit is on selling things. It's not like they're making that much money going on tour. They make their money by selling merch on tour, because I don't think bands some bands probably get paid a lot to play at venues, but otherwise they don't like make a lot to play at venues.
And that's always been my impression too, like even going back to like high school and shit, right? That bands, the way they make their money is touring and merch sales. They don't make money on their album sales because they're usually under contract, and it's the producers and the record labels taking the majority of the profits from those sales. And as you said, with touring, it's the promoter, it's the venue taking a large chunk of revenue from ticket sales. But the band is getting their name out there, they're getting their word out there, and they're selling shirts, they're selling CDs, they're selling a bunch of different shit. Every band has their own little merch stuff. And people go and they buy it because you want to get your band's favorite, their name on your favorite item. Like now with weed being popular and all over the place that's legal, you have a lot of people doing like rolling trays and grinders and shit with the band name on them. So like bands will slap their name on anything and sell it, which is cool. It's awesome. I mean, Kiss was the fucking best at it. But yeah, as you said, the merch though is what's always been in my head of where they make their money.
Yeah.
And to hear like venues taking percentages on this is kind of outrageous to some extent, I think.
Yeah.
We'll get into that here in a little bit, hopefully.
So go ahead with the tweet. I just wanted to say that before
sure.
moving it.
I think the singer then from the same band, from the Architects, tweeted again like, yeah, we were in Melbourne and they took 15% off of our things and we waited 4 hours for them to get us like gear for our merch people, like lighting and shit for our merch table, which is outrageous to think about as well.
I mean, from the three that we're going to talk about, I think 15% is like the lowest that they talk about. So, but I mean, that still sucks. Like, because if you're paying, like, if you don't have that much money anyway, or like aren't making that much money anyways, and then you have to give 15% of it away right away, that kind of sucks when all you're doing is setting up a table or using a counter that's already there to sell your stuff.
Right. And like another person tweeted back, another band member, I don't know who this is off the top of my head, but they basically said something like, hey, our audience is an older audience, like in their mid-30s or something, right? And we're driving this in, they're buying beers and shit, and it's expensive beers too. It's like at least $10 to $20 a beer. I'm not fucking going to that venue to buy beer. I mean, I'm going to buy beer while I'm there, but I'd rather go to a bar and spend $7 on a beer. And if there was no band there, I'm not fucking going to your venue to buy that shitty ass expensive beer. But you have a monopoly on that. So, I mean, I kind of agree with that too. Like, you're only here buying beer because we're here, so give us a little bit of that as well. The thing I was kind of alluding to earlier is I think it's okay for venues to take a little bit. I think like it is their space that they're sort of renting out. I think it's okay for them to rent out space and say like it's $200, $300 for the night for you to rent this space. Or we're going to take 10% of merch until we get the $200 type thing, whatever comes first. But I think we did some rough numbers before this. Like if there's 1,000 people in the concert and only 200 people buy a shirt at $40 a shirt, that's what, like 600?
Well, you said $50 a shirt, so yeah. So
the point is, it glows up pretty quick.
So if you do 15%, that'd be $850. If you do 25%, that's $750. So I mean, the venue would take $1,500 or whatever. Yeah. Because it'd be $1,000 that they were making, and they have to give 15%, 25%, whatever the percentage is.
Yep. So I mean, I do think that's fair to say, like, this is our space, our equipment. You kind of have to rent it from us, but that price you're charging is way too much in my opinion.
But I even think $200 is too much for.
It depends on where you're at. Like if you're at Soldier Field or something where you have several booths, you can make a justification there. But like House of Blues, for instance, taking a small little section in the back by the bathrooms, like you're not going to put a bar there anyway. So I don't. I think having a little thing is fine. Yeah. Which then leads into another one. A little bit later came out that Russian circles stopped selling merch because the venue outsourced the selling of the merch. So it seems like from this article they didn't sell merch from one concert. Yeah. Not like stop selling altogether. Yes. And I believe what the article was saying is the venue decided to like outsource to a third party, a merch seller who then took 25% of their commission off of their merch that they sold. And then 20% withholding for a tax.
Yeah. For like it's called VAT tax, but it's like a value added tax. Yeah, value added tax. So and this was in Paris. So anyways, the third party company took 25% off the top, plus then they got a 20% VAT tax on top of it.
Which I think we were talking a little bit before this as well, and you pointed out like if it's a small band, they're selling their own merch. And they're out there saying hi to the fans, selling their own merch. If it's the larger headlining band, they usually use their roadies or friends or other people to do it. Or maybe the venue does use their own employees, but I don't think they use them that often. I think it's people who are in the band who are traveling around.
Yeah. Okay. We have 20 seconds. Let's talk about the main one that got this going.
Yeah. So we're going to go over it a little bit. But in 2020, right before the lockdown, or right during the lockdown, David from We Come as Romans, or We Came as Romans, I always fuck that up, basically put out a tweet saying like, hey, the best way you can support bands right now is through merch sales. And we'll post this up on when we're talking about it. But the gist of it, the second one is really good, I think, where he breaks it down, where management takes 15% of the gross. The business management, apparently different, takes another 5% of gross. And tax withholdings.
Which would be like that VAT tax.
Yep. 30% off that. And the venue, back in 2020, was still taking 15% of the gross as well. And then he goes on to say that, if we sell shirts for $25 a shirt, that leaves, after all of those fees, that leaves like $9, not even $9 for the band to split. But we're not done yet. The band has to pay for shipping. They have to pay for overhead. Like we said, people who are then selling the merch, people who are, lugging it around from show to show.
Overhead is.
Not everybody does, maybe. I don't know. Okay. But whatever. After you do that, like, that just leaves, what was it?
$475, I think.
$475. Yeah. And then so when you break it down per band member, per shirt sold, they're only making, as a band member, 50 cents to 75 cents because everybody else is just skimming off the top of them.
And this is their job. I mean, I'm not saying job like as like it's not a real job, but this is how they get paid.
This is their living, right? And so like we talked about earlier, where I always thought they don't make money on their record sales. They don't make money on touring. They make money on merch sales. Yeah. And if that's the case, they make they sell a fuck ton of shit or I assume they sell a fuck ton of shit. I don't know, because 50 cents to 75 cents is not much money.
No, it's not. But what I was going to say, I know we're way over time, but what I was going to say is I've heard so many people when you're at a concert look at the board and say $45 for a shirt. Like, 'cause that's about going price for a t-shirt right now. It's 35 to 45 at most of the concerts we go to around here in Chicago. And people will be complaining that it's so expensive, which back in the day, we couldn't afford a $35 shirt or a $25 shirt because we just bought the concert ticket. Like, that's all we could do. Yeah. But they probably had to raise their prices, and you no longer can get a $20 shirt because of all this bullshit that's going on.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. There's a lot of nuance to this and a lot of moving parts in merch sales.
Yeah.
A lot more than I had initially thought. I knew people were taking cuts and all of that. I didn't realize how little the band actually got.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of bullshit, really, when you think about it.
Yeah. Hopefully, if all bands kind of like go together and kind of say like this is bullshit, hopefully they'll either lower the price that they're taking or kind of do what you're saying and like say a flat fee.
And I thought there was one tweet I saw when I first looked this up that I can't find now, but basically the tweet was, yeah, this is, kind of bullshit when you think about it, because the corporation that's selling the tickets is also owning the venues and also taking the cut off of this. So, I mean, I agree. I think bands should say, we're not fucking playing this venue if you're going to take this cut from the top, unless you give us additional sales, right? Or work with us a little bit on this. Problem is, there are no other venues out there because fucking Live Nation Ticketmaster owns goddamn everything.
Yeah, especially after 2020, we've noticed a lot more venues that are now owned by Live Nation that we don't remember being owned by Live Nation prior.
I mean, with all that said, I'm still going to buy merch at the show.
Oh yeah,
to support the band.
Absolutely.
And
online.
Online,
we do like tour shirts more than.
So I mean, when we buy our records and stuff, we buy directly from the band.
Yep.
But yeah, it's really depressing how little they actually get, and it's kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Like very, very bullshit.
Yeah. So
go out, support your bands and buy the shit from them. Like, don't go to Walmart. Buy your band shirt from your favorite bands. They all have their stores, so go support them. We love what they do.
Yep.